In the downtown, we found that 101 bifurcated our two primary business communities. It created this structural barrier that required us to bridge a divide between communities that weren't originally divided, such as Southwest and Southeast Santa Rosa.
We had a two-lane overpass built in the 1950s, built to take people from the city streets onto the freeway. This overcrossing served only motorized traffic. Trucks and cars could get across it, albeit very slowly, but bicycles and pedestrians, there was no room for them on the overcrossing. Things have changed, of course, over the last decades, and now all of a sudden that overpass is very congested. Traffic going over it barely moves.
The off-ramp would back up during holiday times, even non-holiday times, it would back up onto the freeway. In order to get those people off the freeway, you needed to get rid of the bottleneck on the overcrossing to allow them a space to queue.
You can tell throughout the entire community, the folks that have suffered, whether they're stuck in a car or trying to ride their bike or walk across, and how horrible it has been for so long since they built it.
It's not just a matter of getting the project, a design figured out and everyone agreeing on it. It's, well, then you got to fund it.
Caltrans doesn't build unless funding is in place.
When it comes to planning and funding transportation projects in Sonoma County, that's where our organization really adds value to this county and all the travelers within it. The number one thing that the SCTCA does is we administer a sales tax.
This was one of the cornerstone projects in order to help convince the voters that we wanted to pass the tax measure. The bridge probably wouldn't exist without Suzanne Smith. She worked very hard to pass the original tax measure. As you know, it didn't pass for several attempts before we were able to be successful in 2004. She was able to work together with Markeisha Smith and Chris Rogers at the city in order to put together a funding plan that would actually make the project come to fruition. Measure M and the tax measure, the quarter-cent tax measure, was always intended as seed money. So it was always with the understanding that for each dollar that the tax measure provided, the city and or any project implementer would have to come up with another dollar. So the city of Santa Rosa had to come up with a lot of their own funding, particularly in those earlier phases. The amount of money that was identified for the project changed regularly because, you know, the estimates that were provided in 2005 were barely half of what was needed by the time we got to 2025.
I, in my role, helped the city come up with a grant application to go after some competitive funding through Senate Bill 1 that the state had available, and that was the last funding source that we needed to fund the project.
And in the end, we were able to piece together through almost a dozen different funding measures to make this particular project to come to reality. But it didn't come without pain and struggle and really a substantial amount of frustration.
The project's success reflects strong collaboration and diverse funding sources by all stakeholders.
This project was only business as usual in reference to the use of facilitated partnering on all Caltrans projects greater than $10 million. This project team was tested from the beginning. The project was initially scheduled to begin field work in early 2024. However, early construction activities were restricted due to bird nesting that impacted the required tree removals, resulting in several months of delay. Progress was further slowed by wet site conditions which affected the soil excavation and embankment operations needed before pile driving operations could begin. And per the specifications, access to an environmentally sensitive area in the southwest quadrant of the project was prohibited until June 15th. To overcome these challenges, the project team and stakeholders held multiple partnering meetings to identify critical path issues and to develop coordinated strategies to accelerate the work.
When it comes to partnering, one of the most important things is the facilitator that you hire to do that partnering. Rob from Orgmetrics was instrumental in the working together and the partnering to make this thing happen.
I thought the partnering was impeccable on this project. On other projects, you don't really have like time dedicated to partnering. It's just you kind of do it as you go and then you adjust. We had a facilitator, but I think we probably met quarterly, and from those meetings we've created this like relationship. Once we created those relationships, they were constantly being like, I think this is something Desiree would care about.
The city was the lead agency for the design portion, and then Sonoma County Transportation Authority took over as the lead during construction.
So when we enter into a cooperative agreement with Caltrans, we take on certain funding risks associated with it. The only way to mitigate those funding risks is to be directly involved with the implementation, looking at the risks on the project and making sure we're engaged early. So if we have to have additional funds brought to the table to mitigate risks or to do change orders, we know well in advance and can decide whether those change orders need to move forward with the contractor.
I'm blown away by the partnering and how well, once we sat down, all the agencies worked well together. From Caltrans to the designers, AECOM, to SETCA, to City of Santa Rosa, everyone had the common goal of finishing this project safely, on time, and under budget.
We have partnering set up on all of our Caltrans projects, but this one went very smooth.
Partnering to me is just it's a great process. It makes, instead of everybody being in a silo, over here the Caltrans, us, city, the traveling public, everybody comes together.
Chase McFall and Greg Allen, they were the backbone of the partnering sessions. They did a great job with the team, with everybody involved, coordinating all of our manpower.
But I mean, it took everybody. So it took Caltrans, Michael Peters, Sid Fahal, Jim Cook, all these people working with us and helping.
Traffic engineering encompasses everything: vehicles, pedestrians, bicycles. So we are instrumental in getting people to where they need to go, no matter what mode they're using. So on the north side of the bridge, it's just a typical protected bike lane. So we only expect there to be bicycles going west, which is the same direction of travel for the vehicles. So it is protected. We do have what we call K71 bollards, those green bollards that you see there on the bridge, and those protect the bicycles in a sense while they're going in the same direction. This signalization was our last challenge, but it was not the only challenge. And so we had to make some modifications at both the intersection of Hearn and Santa Rosa Avenue and Hearn and Corby to accommodate the two-way bicycle lanes on the south side.
My duties were to build the structures, the bridge, the retaining walls, coordinate working with all the subcontractors, the city, maintain relationship with the public, and to beat the schedule.
When you talk about drilling piles and you're building embankment, there's settlement periods associated with that embankment. There's so many phases to the project that Gelati Construction has to coordinate, bringing all those subs together, as well as looking at ways to mitigate schedule impacts, because you don't necessarily want to see an embankment settlement period in the best months of summer when you can be actually getting substantial work done. One of my challenges early on with this project project was the original contractor schedule. That schedule showed a delivery in 3 years. We've done so many of these, whether it's Old Redwood Highway in Petaluma, whether it's Airport Boulevard interchange, and working up and down the corridor. It just didn't make sense. I know these guys can deliver these projects and work around those settlement periods, that pile driving operation, getting multiple subs going at the same time.
Gelati, as a construction company, we make money if we get in and get out, and we do it all in just one time. We bid it to make money.
The contractor will want to look at stage construction changes and ways to, deliver the project more creatively, bringing that construction expertise to the table.
The contractor suggested doing a full closure of the freeway, or of the overcrossing, which the city was not happy about. We didn't want to do any full closures because that, restricts the link from the west to the east side.
We thought, God, guys, you could save a year and a half off this job if we just closed the damn thing down, right? And people were saying no, but then somebody was saying yes, and Desiree was definitely saying no. I don't think there's a chance of it. In construction, what is it? It's always no, and it's always no if you don't ask.
But Gelati's came to the table and they were like, if we could do it in only 2 weekends, so we'll give you the week when people are traveling the most over it to get to the work and whatnot. If we could, it was kind of this bargaining game. If we could give you this, but we could reduce the time on the project by this, is that something you would consider? And I just thought that was a really good point for partnering, right? We could gain, maybe it wasn't quite the 6 months at that point. It was like a month or two on the end, right? We could gain that, and all we need to spend right now are 2 weekends. I thought that was a perfect example of the partnering from Gelati, working with the city, Caltrans being the middleman to try and weigh both sides. And that ended up paying off in the end.
Even though the original intention was for 3 years, this group did come together and figure out how to deliver the project in 2 seasons, so those folks that had been wanting this new interchange for so long actually got it.
They came up with great plans on how to, take some small sacrifices for some big steps.
It was a value plan that was about saving time. We had the right team in place that we could actually accelerate the work itself. I have engineers, Julie Hilton and Kayla Thorne, who come in and they model this piece. They show us what we can and can't do. We map it out. I have an engineer who comes in and designs that shoring system. Carmel Hanna, he comes in and designs it. Then we come in and install it.
One of the challenges was to get the grades to a point where they were flatter, so to kind of extend it out, but they also had to raise the height of the bridge to meet the current standards for truck traffic and everything underneath the bridge. So it's a bit higher than the old bridge, and it's a bit longer. It spreads out longer.
We had many subs on this project, and Mike Brown being one of the large key players with implementing all the new traffic intersections, maintaining traffic switches, temporary signal systems, from removing the cameras and the loops to putting in temp lights and poles, and maintaining signal systems at all times. Since there was 3 active signals on this project, they played a huge role, always willing to work with us, work with the city at a moment's notice, any nights, weekends. They're always there to help. And also, they're very integral with the city of Santa Rosa and work well together. Dustin Rubio, their project manager, VP, Mark Hill, their foreman, and Joe Crean, their superintendent. Those 3 guys made this project very seamless and worked well.
The man hours put into this project was about 54,000 man hours. So, and I know we accelerated the project, and I was actually looking at the regular time versus the overtime, and the overtime was 10,000 hours, so it's roughly 1/5 of the overall man hours. So it's pretty impressive.
Just finishing early on this, it was tough to put an actual monetary budget number, but we were probably about $1 million. The large savings was the time and safety for the traveling public was the number 1 goal.
My big goal was to minimize impact to the public, maintain access, linking the west and the east side of the freeway, and I feel like we achieved that. And we did it in a shorter time.
It's nice for the the community of Roseland to build that interchange, to build that overcrossing, connects them to the business side of Santa Rosa Avenue.
I think everybody knew the scale of this project. Sonoma County doesn't build big things all that often, and this was a big thing, and everybody wanted to put their name on it and be a part of this in a successful way.
This really was a really long time coming project that had a lot of dialogue and discussion, and the final product really is something to be very, very proud of. So I couldn't be more thrilled to have been a part of that design process.
Now that it's built, it is flowing with cars and trucks because there's 4 lanes that cross it, not 2, but also people who are taking a bicycle. They have a lane on each side. They have a class 4 bicycle lane on one side, which means they have a barrier separating them from cars, and there's 2 sidewalks. So what you've gone from was something that was very inhibiting to cross to something that's actually inviting. And this attracts people to go back and forth, either by bicycle, car, or even walking. And it instead of having like an east neighborhood and a west neighborhood, the neighborhoods will integrate and be one neighborhood again, like they were before the freeway was even built and this overpass was there.